Malik Washington slipped into a small New York City coffee shop, craving a moment of calm after a grueling tech conference. Dressed in a simple black suit, his sharp eyes and confident stride betrayed he was no ordinary man. As the CEO of Horizon Innovations, a trailblazing company in artificial intelligence and clean energy, Malik was among America's wealthiest. Today, though, he just wanted a coffee and a few minutes of peace. The cafe was quiet, exactly what he needed. The aroma of freshly roasted beans mingled with the scent of warm pastries. He ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and settled into a corner booth away from the windows. His security team lingered outside, discreetly scanning the street. Malik's gaze drifted across the room, then froze. An elderly woman in a blue and white uniform was wiping down tables, her thin hands trembling with age. Something about her deliberate, purposeful movements made his heart race. She turned slightly and the light from the window caught her face. Those high cheekbones, that gentle nose, too familiar. Malik nearly dropped his cup. No way, he whispered to himself. Memories flooded back, bedtime stories, bandaged knees, a voice urging him to dream big. Evelyn, the name slipped out before he could stop it. The woman didn't hear. She kept working, her shoulders hunched under time's weight. Malik stood, pulse pounding. His security guard raised an eyebrow, but he waved him off. "Evelyn Carter," he called louder. The woman turned, her warm brown eyes meeting his with confusion. "Yes, do I know you, sir?" Her voice quavered, but carried a cadence he knew by heart. Malik stepped closer, unable to look away. Up close, he saw the deep lines etched into her face, her hands rough from labor. But those eyes, they hadn't changed, untouched by the years. "It's me," he said softly. Malik Washington, from Chicago." Evelyn's eyes widened. The rag slipped from her hand, hitting the floor with a soft thud. "Malik," she whispered, using the name only she had ever called him. Her trembling hand reached out, stopping just short of his face. "My Malik, is it really you?" Malik nodded, his throat tight. This woman had wiped his tears, packed his lunches, taught him the stars weren't just lights but worlds to explore. "You grew so tall," she said, her voice thick with the same Chicago lilt from years ago. "I see you on TV sometimes, technology, big projects. Just like you always said you would." She smiled, pride shining in her eyes. "But what are you doing here, Miss Evelyn?" Malik asked, glancing around the near-empty cafe. "You must be, how old now?" 85 last month. She finished, bending slowly to pick up the rag. Malik knelt quickly to help, but his next question came out blunt. "Why are you working here?" "Cleaning tables." Evelyn straightened, adjusting her uniform with visible pride. "Life happens, Malik. I work because I have to. Bills don't pay themselves." A voice barked from the counter. "Evelyn, tables 4 and 6 need clearing." "One moment, Mr. Davis." She called back, her tone suddenly weary. Malik noticed how she leaned slightly on the table for balance. "You should sit," he said, concerned. Evelyn shook her head. "No time for sitting, Malik. These old bones keep moving, or they stop for good." She smiled, but he saw the exhaustion in her eyes. "Can we talk after your shift?" he asked. She glanced at the wall clock. "I finish at 8, then catch the bus to my night job." "Night job?" Malik couldn't hide his shock. "You work 2 jobs." Evelyn nodded matter-of-factly. "Office cleaning on Market Street. Pays better at night." Malik ran a hand over his head, struggling to process this. The woman who'd bandaged his scrapes, held him through storms, was scrubbing floors at night at 85. "Miss Evelyn, I want to Evelyn those tables." The manager's voice cut through again. "I have to go," she said, giving his arm a quick squeeze. "You look good, Malik. Your mama must be proud." Before he could respond, she shuffled off, collecting dirty dishes as she went. Malik watched her work, noting how she winced lifting a heavy tray. His security guard approached. "Sir, your car's ready." Malik nodded, eyes still on Evelyn. He pulled out his wallet, slipping a $100 bill under his cup, a small gesture that felt woefully inadequate. "Change of plans," he told his guard. "I want everything on this cafe owner's shift schedules, all of it. And I need her address." The guard nodded, jotting notes on his phone. Malik took one last look at Evelyn, the woman who'd once been his childhood center, now invisible to everyone, but his hands cleaning their messes. Stepping onto New York's bustling streets, the contrast hit him hard. His sleek, expensive car waited. His phone buzzed with messages from people wanting his time money ideas. Behind him, Evelyn kept working hands raw from hot water and chemicals. "This isn't right," he muttered, sliding into the back seat. As the car pulled away, Malik made a decision. The woman who'd cared for him would never clean another table or worry about a late-night bus again. He didn't know how yet, but he'd make it happen. What he didn't realize was that helping Evelyn would unearth a long-buried family secret, forcing him to question everything he thought he knew about his past and his success. Back in his hotel suite, Malik couldn't stay still. He paced before the floor-to-ceiling windows, New York's lights twinkling below. But his mind was elsewhere, another time. Evelyn, he whispered the name, unlocking memories he hadn't touched in decades. He sank onto the edge of the king-size bed, closed his eyes, and suddenly he was four again, standing in the doorway of his childhood home in Chicago's South Side, watching a younger Evelyn arrive with a small suitcase and a warm smile. "This is Miss Carter," his mother Clara had said. "She'll take care of you and your brother." Young Malik studied her, curious. Evelyn wasn't like other babysitters. She didn't smell of perfume or talk to him like he was dumb. Instead, she knelt to his level and asked, "You like stories, Malik?" When he nodded, she smiled. "Good. I know plenty, some in English, some in Spanish. We'll learn together, okay?" Malik opened his eyes, grabbed his phone, and scrolled to his private investigator's number. "I need info on someone," he said when the man answered. "Tonight." After the call, Malik walked to the minibar but didn't open it. He stood still, recalling the chaos of his parents' divorce. He was 8 when things got bad, his stepfather Raymond Harris's voice too loud, his mother's tears behind closed doors. Through it all, Evelyn was steady. When Malik hid in his room with books and homemade circuits, she brought snacks without forcing him to talk. When he couldn't sleep through the shouting, she taught him to count stars through his window. "Find the Big Dipper," she'd say, pointing at the night sky. "When you're lost, it'll guide you home." Malik stepped into the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face, staring at his reflection. He could almost see the skinny kid he'd been the one bullied at school for being different, for dreaming of tech and the future instead of basketball or street games. "You've got a special mind," Evelyn had told him once after he came home with a bloody nose. "They hit you because they don't understand you. One day they'll wish they'd been kinder." She taught him more than his teachers ever did, not just reading or math, but how to think around problems. When his projects failed, she never said he was wrong. Instead, she asked, "What can we learn from this mistake?" His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant, "Found address for E. Carter. Investor meeting moved to 10 a.m. tomorrow." He fired back a quick thanks and returned to the window. Below, the city pulsed with life, people heading home or out for the night. Was Evelyn on a bus somewhere in that sea of lights, off to scrub floors while the world slept? The next memory hit hard, painful. He was 10, racing home, eager to tell Evelyn about winning the science fair. But when he burst through the door, she wasn't there. "Where's Miss Evelyn?" he'd asked his mother. "She had to go," honey. Clara's voice was strained. "When's she coming back?" "She's not. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone." For weeks, he waited by the window, certain she'd return. Finally, his mother told him to stop. "It's grown-up business, Malik. Complicated." He never understood what that meant. His laptop pinged with an incoming email subject, "Preliminary info on E. Carter." He opened it. Sparse details: Evelyn Carter, 85, immigrated from Jamaica 30 years ago, lives in a rundown Brooklyn apartment, 2 jobs, cafe worker by day, office cleaner by night. No criminal record, near empty bank account, no retirement fund. "How is this possible?" Malik muttered. Another memory surfaced. Evelyn teaching him to make paper airplanes, not simple ones, but complex designs that soared across the yard. "Always think about the air, Malik," she'd explained. "It's invisible, but it's real. The things we can't see can be the most powerful." Later, when he built his first robot model, she helped him tweak its parts. "Balance," she'd said. "Without balance, even the strongest machine fails." Malik realized he still used that phrase with his engineers at Horizon. His phone rang. His investigator. "Mr. Washington found something interesting." Ms. Carter worked for several wealthy families before coming to the U.S. "She was with your family in Chicago from 79 to 85. "I know that part," Malik said, impatient. "What's odd is how her employment ended. No record of her quitting or being fired. She just vanishes from your family's records. 3 weeks later, she shows up at the U.S. Embassy applying for an emergency visa. Emergency for what? Malik frowned. Paperwork says family emergency, but I found no trace of any family crisis. Her sister was already in New York, healthy, no deaths, no accidents. So she lied to get the visa, Malik asked, confused. Or someone got it for her, fast and quiet, the investigator replied. I'll keep digging. After hanging up, Malik lay back on the bed staring at the ceiling. Why an emergency visa? Why leave so suddenly without a goodbye? His mother never gave straight answers about Evelyn's departure. Now he wondered if there was more to it than complicated grown-up business. He closed his eyes and another memory sharpened. The last night he saw Evelyn, he was half asleep when raised voices drifted upstairs. Raymond's angry tone as usual, but the other voice was Evelyn's, not soft like always, but fierce, protective. You can't talk to him like that, she'd said. He's just a boy. Raymond snapped something Malik couldn't catch. Then Evelyn said, then maybe you're the one who should leave. The next morning she was gone. Malik sat up, the memory vivid. Was Evelyn fired for standing up to Raymond, for defending him? If so, what else had he misunderstood about his childhood? He grabbed his phone, dialing his mother in Chicago. Mom, I need to talk about Miss Evelyn. A long silence followed. Finally, Clara answered, her voice cautious. Why are you asking about her after all these years? Because I saw her today in New York. She's 85. Mom cleaning tables and mopping floors to survive. A sharp intake of breath. How? She's working at that age. What happened back then, Mom? Why did she really leave Malik? It's late here. Can we talk another time? No, he said firmly. I need to know now. Clara sighed. Some things are better left alone. Not her, Malik insisted. Not this. I'll call you tomorrow, she said, and the line went dead. Malik stared at his phone, frustration rising. Even after all these years, his mother was guarding secrets. But whose and why? Malik Washington woke in his luxurious New York hotel suite, morning light filtering through the curtains, but his mind was heavy. Memories of Evelyn Carter, his childhood nanny, and their unexpected reunion at the cafe yesterday lingered. At 85, she was still toiling, wiping tables by day, cleaning offices by night just to survive. Malik couldn't accept it. The woman who'd been a beacon in his darkest childhood years in Chicago was struggling in obscurity while he commanded billions. Today, he'd start changing that. He checked his phone. A message from his private investigator, detailed report on E. Carter sent. Some points of interest. Malik opened the email immediately. The report confirmed what he knew. Evelyn immigrated from Jamaica in 1985, lived in a dilapidated Brooklyn apartment, worked 2 low-wage jobs, had no retirement savings. But one new detail stopped him cold. From 1985 to 1995, regular payments were wired from a Chicago bank account to Evelyn. The account holder was Clara Washington, his mother. Malik frowned. His mother sent Evelyn money for a decade after she left Chicago. Why and why stop in 1995, right when Malik sold his first company and made his initial millions? Had Clara run out of funds to help her? Or was there another reason and another message from his assistant employment info on E. Carter? After leaving your family, she worked as a nanny for 3 wealthy U.S. families, all terminated within 2 years. No official reason given. She then switched to elder care and cleaning, lower pay, but longer tenure. Malik skimmed the documents, trying to make sense of the pattern. Why would an experienced nanny like Evelyn, who stayed with his family for 6 years, keep getting fired? And why shift to grueling, low-paying jobs? He stood, slipped on his jacket, and called his driver. Take me to Brooklyn. Address is in the email. Today he'd visit Evelyn at her home. He needed to understand her life now, and more importantly, the truth about why she left Chicago so abruptly, nearly 40 years ago. Last night's call with his mother left more questions than answers, and he sensed a deeper secret lurking. Malik's car glided through New York's bustling streets, entering Brooklyn's rougher edges. Evelyn's building loomed, a squat gray concrete block with barred windows and peeling paint. A group of teens loitered near the entrance, eyeing Malik's sleek car with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. He checked his watch, 10:30 a.m. Per the report, Evelyn should be home now, between her night shift and afternoon cafe job. He pressed the buzzer for apartment 3B. No response. He pressed again, longer. Finally, a faint voice crackled through the speaker. "Who's there?" "It's me, Malik Washington." "We met yesterday." A pause, then the door buzzed open. The hallway reeked of stale cooking and something harsher. Apartment 3B had 3 locks. When the door creaked open, Evelyn stood there in a faded housecoat, silver hair loose around her shoulders. "Malik," she said, her eyes darting past him into the hall. "Is something wrong?" "May I come in?" he asked. She hesitated, then stepped back, opening the door wider. "It's not much," she said, her tone apologetic. The apartment was tiny but spotlessly clean. A single bed, a small table with 2 chairs, a kitchenette with a hot plate, and a TV that might have been new when Reagan was president. "Sit," Evelyn said, gesturing to a chair. "I can make tea." "Don't trouble yourself," Malik said gently. "What matters is why you're here working 2 jobs at your age." Evelyn sat across from him, hands clasped in her lap. "I take care of myself. Always have. But why did you leave Chicago so suddenly? Why no goodbye?" Malik met her gaze, voice firm. Evelyn's eyes darkened. "Some goodbyes are too hard to say, Malik." "My mother won't tell me what happened," he pressed. "If she won't, maybe you should." Evelyn stood wincing as she put weight on her left knee. "If your mama won't say, maybe you should respect that." She moved to the kitchenette. Tea, Malik knew pushing now wouldn't work. He nodded. "Tea'd be nice." As Evelyn filled a kettle, Malik noticed a small shelf near her bed. It held a few photos and a stack of old newspapers. He walked over casually. The photos showed a younger Evelyn with another woman, her sister he guessed, and a young girl, likely a niece or grandniece. But the newspapers caught his eye. Yellowed, carefully preserved in plastic sleeves, he picked one up. The headline read, "Chicago Entrepreneur Sells Company for $165 million. His own younger face stared back. Another Horizon Innovations revolutionizes energy sector. Another Malik Washington eyes AI future. Evelyn had tracked his career all these years, saving every mention of him she could find. "You kept these," Malik said softly, voice thick with emotion. She set the teacups down, hands trembling. "I always knew you'd do big things. Why didn't you ever contact me?" Evelyn looked away. "It was better that way. Better for who he asked." Before she could answer, a coughing fit seized her, deep, rattling, the kind born of years of hard labor and poor health care. "Are you sick?" Malik asked, concerned. "Just old," she said, when the cough subsided. "Doctors want me to take medicine for my lungs, my heart, but—" She shrugged. "But it's too expensive," he finished. She didn't deny it. Malik felt anger surge, not at Evelyn, but at the cruel twists of fate that brought them here. While he built billion-dollar companies, the woman who shaped his young mind fought to survive. "I want to help you," he said firmly. Evelyn shook her head. "I didn't keep those papers to ask for handouts, Malik. I kept them because I was proud. Still am. It's not a handout. It's what you deserve." She smiled sadly. "Life don't often give us what we deserve, Malik. It gives us what we fight for." Malik knew this proud woman wouldn't accept help easily, but as he sipped the plain black tea she'd made no sugar, because sugar was a luxury, he silently vowed to find a way. What he didn't yet grasp was why their paths had diverged so starkly and why his mother dodged the truth about it. Back at the hotel, Malik called his investigator. "Anything new?" "Yes, sir. A letter from 1985 from your stepfather, Raymond Harris's company, sent to the U.S. Embassy. It supported Ms. Carter's emergency visa application, but stated her services were no longer needed and there'd be consequences if she stayed in Chicago." Bluntly, it was a threat. Malik gripped the phone. "What else? I tracked down the daughter of a family Ms. Carter worked for in Albany. She said her mother hired Ms. Carter on your mother's recommendation, Mrs. Clara Washington. But Clara always warned that Ms. Carter might need to leave suddenly if Mr. Harris ever found out where she was working." Malik felt the floor tilt beneath him. "My mother. Yes. It seems Clara helped several families hire Miss Carter over the years, always with the condition of keeping her location secret." Malik told the investigator to keep digging, then hung up. He paced the room, piecing together the puzzle. His stepfather forced Evelyn out of Chicago. His mother secretly aided her for years, and they hid it all from him. But why, an hour later, his phone rang a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Washington, this is Gerald Winters, Raymond Harris's attorney in Chicago. from 1980 to 1989. Malik sat slowly, voice tight. How'd you get this number? Your investigator reached me. You're looking into Ms. Carter's departure. I'm retired, but I thought I should speak directly. I'm listening, Malik said. Winters sighed. You need context. Your stepfather was a powerful man in Chicago with a reputation to protect. Ms. Carter became a problem. She interfered with how Mr. Harris wanted to raise you, encourage interests he didn't approve of, contradicted his orders. She cared about me, Malik said flatly. Perhaps, but the breaking point came when she witnessed an incident between you and Mr. Harris. A disciplinary matter, I believe. Malik closed his eyes, memories flashing, Raymond's booming voice, a sharp sting hiding in his room. She threatened to report him for child abuse, Winters continued. Back then, with Harris's connections, such a report likely wouldn't have gone far. But she made a scene, wouldn't back down. So he had her deported. Not exactly. The deal was, she'd leave the country voluntarily with a reference letter for future work, and Harris wouldn't pursue charges against her for alleged theft. Theft? Malik stood incredulous. Miss Evelyn never stole a thing. Of course not, Winters agreed. But it was a convenient accusation that would have made it impossible for her to work in Chicago again. Mr. Harris was persuasive when crossed. And my mother, where was she in this? A pause. Your mother negotiated the deal to let Ms. Carter leave safely. She insisted on handling the reference letters and helped secure the visa. Why didn't anyone tell me you were a child, Mr. Washington? And later, some secrets grow harder to reveal the longer they're kept. After the call, Malik sat in this stunned silence. All these years, he thought Evelyn just left. In truth, she was forced out for protecting him. His mother helped her escape, but hid the truth. And Evelyn suffered in silence, too proud to reach out, perhaps too afraid of stirring the past. He opened another email from his assistant containing Evelyn's medical records. How they got them, he didn't ask. What he read turned his stomach: untreated hypertension, early-stage COPD, from years of chemical exposure, severe arthritis in hands and knees, a cataract forming in her right eye. All treatable if she could afford it. Malik closed the file. Book me a flight to Chicago, he told his assistant over the phone, and get my mother a hotel room when she arrives, not here, somewhere else. Chicago, sir. Why I need to see my brother. In person. As his assistant made arrangements, Malik stared at New York's skyline. The pieces were falling into place, but the picture was ugly. His stepfather drove away the one person who truly shielded him as a child. His mother helped Evelyn flee, but kept the truth buried. And Evelyn, who nurtured his core principles, problem-solving, defying conventional thinking, struggled to survive watching his success from afar. His phone buzzed with a text from his investigator. Found more. Mrs. Carter has a grandniece, Talia, college-age, brilliant, accepted to MIT for engineering, but couldn't afford it. Now at community college. Malik felt a surge of resolve. He couldn't change the past, but he could shape the future for Evelyn and her family. First, though, he needed the whole truth, and that meant confronting his mother. The next day, Malik canceled his investor meeting. Sir, they flew from Tokyo just to meet you, his assistant protested. Reschedule. Say it's a family emergency. Not entirely a lie. Evelyn was more family than many blood relatives. He decided to see Evelyn again before flying to Chicago. He arrived at the cafe mid-morning when it was busy with laptop-toting customers and business meetings. He spotted Evelyn immediately wiping a table near the window, her movements careful but efficient. He watched her a moment. Despite her age and pain, she worked with quiet dignity. When a customer knocked over a coffee cup, she was there instantly, cleaning it up with a kind word that made the embarrassed young man smile. Small acts of kindness Evelyn's way, then and now. When she turned and saw Malik, her eyes widened in surprise. He gestured to an empty corner table, and she nodded, finishing her task before joining him. 2 days in a row, she said, a hint of worry in her voice. Something wrong, Malik. I'd like to buy you lunch, he said. When's your break? She glanced at the clock. 30 minutes at noon. You'll come back, I'll be back, he promised. Instead of returning to his hotel, Malik had his driver take him to a modest diner a few blocks away. Not too fancy, not too cheap a place. Evelyn might feel at ease. At noon sharp, he waited outside the cafe. Evelyn emerged looking tired but composed in a faded blue sweater instead of her uniform. "You didn't have to do this," she said as they walked to the diner. "I wanted to," Malik replied simply. Inside, they settled into a booth. Evelyn studied the menu, her eyes lingering on the prices, finally choosing a bowl of soup. "That's all you want?" Malik asked. "It's enough," she said firmly. Malik ordered soup too, though he wasn't hungry. "Tell me about your life," he said once the waitress left. "After you left Chicago." Evelyn hesitated, then spoke slowly. She told of coming to America to care for her sister Teresa, who had multiple sclerosis, of the family she worked for in those early years, each job ending abruptly, though she didn't say why, then switching to elder care. It was simpler, she said, her eyes meeting his briefly. No children involved. Malik caught the unspoken meaning. No children meant no painful reminders of him, no bonds that could be suddenly severed. "Teresa passed 12 years ago," she continued. "Cancer. After that, it was just me." "No family of your own?" he asked. A shadow crossed her face. "I never married. My work was my life." The soup arrived steaming. Evelyn bowed her head for a silent grace before taking a careful spoonful. "You mentioned a night job," Malik said. "Office cleaning." She nodded. 5 buildings on Market Street. "Night pays better." "Sounds exhausting," he said. "Work's work," she shrugged. "I'm lucky to have it at my age." Malik wanted to argue but held back. Instead, he asked, "Any family now?" For the first time, Evelyn's face brightened. "My grandniece, Talia. She's so smart, Malik, like you were." "Tell me about her," he said. Pride shone as Evelyn described Talia. 19, brilliant with computers and math, the first in their family to graduate high school. She got accepted to a big university for engineering. She said, voice dropping. "But we couldn't afford it, even with loans. She's at community college now, working part-time at a grocery store." "MIT," Malik said quietly. Evelyn started. "How'd you know?" "Just a guess," he lied smoothly. "You said she's good at math." As Evelyn spoke more about Talia, Malik's mind raced. The girl's situation was a perfect opening, a way to help without wounding Evelyn's pride. "I've been thinking," he said when she paused. "I'm working on a new project, something important." "Another tech thing?" she asked, genuinely curious. "No education." Not entirely a lie. Education had always interested him, though the project he was about to pitch didn't yet exist. "I'm creating a program for my employees' kids' quality childcare, not just babysitting, but real learning." Evelyn nodded approvingly. "Sounds good." "The thing is," Malik said, watching her closely, "I need someone experienced to build a curriculum. Someone who knows how to nurture young minds." "That sounds wonderful," Evelyn said, not yet catching his drift. "I'd like your help, Miss Evelyn." "As a consultant," she froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. "Me, I'm no teacher. I don't have degrees. You have something better, experience, real-world wisdom about how kids think and learn." He leaned forward. "You shaped my mind when I was young. I want others to benefit from that wisdom." Evelyn set her spoon down, her expression a mix of surprise and suspicion. "What would this involve exactly?" "Advising our education team, sharing insights, designing activities to spark creativity and problem-solving." Malik was improvising, but the idea made sense as he spoke. "It'd be part-time, well-paid, and far less taxing than what you're doing now." The suspicion in her eyes deepened. "Why me after all these years?" "Because I never forgot what you taught me," Malik said truthfully. "About seeing problems differently, about persistence. Those lessons made me successful." Evelyn was silent for a long moment, then said quietly, "This feels like charity, Malik." "It's not," he insisted. "It's business. I need your skills." She studied him, pride wrestling with practicality. "I need to think about it." "Of course," Malik said, masking his disappointment. "Take your time." They finished their soup, talking lighter things. Chicago memories, Malik's kids. Evelyn's tiny chili pepper garden on her apartment windowsill. Too soon her break ended. "I have to get back," she said, rising slowly. "I'll walk you," he offered. Outside the cafe, Evelyn turned to him. "Thank you for lunch, Malik." "And the offer. I'll think on it, I promise." He watched her go inside, shoulders straight, despite the weight of years. His first attempt had met resistance as expected, but he'd planted a seed. Back in his car, Malik made 3 calls. The first to MIT's admissions office, the second to a New York real estate agent, the third to his chief of staff outlining a new project to be built from scratch in record time. "I want a full proposal on my desk by tomorrow," he ordered. "Budget, staffing, timeline, everything." "What do we call this initiative, sir?" his chief asked. Malik thought, recalling how Evelyn called him her little angel when he did something kind. "Beacon of Care," he said firmly. "Call it the Beacon of Care Project." By the time he reached the airport to meet his mother's flight phase, one of his plan was in motion. Whether Evelyn accepted direct help or not, her life was about to change. What he didn't anticipate was how much his own life would shift, and the secrets still waiting to be uncovered. Malik Washington stood at the New York airport terminal, his eyes scanning the crowd for his mother, Clara. The revelations of the past 2 days weighed heavily. Evelyn Carter, his childhood nanny, forced out of Chicago for protecting him. His mother's secret role in helping her escape, and the unanswered questions about why Evelyn's departure was shrouded in silence. Malik had flown his mother in from Chicago to get answers, but the guarded tone in her voice during their last call told him she was still holding something back. Today he intended to uncover the full truth. His phone buzzed with a text from his chief of staff, initial proposal for Beacon of Care project drafted. "Awaiting your review." Malik had launched the project, an ambitious plan to create a community for retired caregivers like Evelyn, only yesterday. But his team was moving fast. He replied quickly, "Send it over. I want updates by end of day." The project was his way of honoring Evelyn, but he knew convincing her to accept his help would be the real challenge. Her pride ran deep, and he needed a strategy that respected her dignity. Clara emerged from the gate looking elegant but tired in a tailored coat. She embraced him briefly, her smile strained. "You look like you did as a teenager," she said, studying his face, determined to get answers. "Let's not do this here," Malik replied, guiding her to his waiting car. Once inside, the privacy screen raised between them and the driver, Clara turned to him. "I assume you know some of it now." "Not enough," Malik said, his voice steady but firm. "I know Raymond forced Evelyn out. I know she stood up to him to protect me. I know you helped her get to America. What I don't know is why you kept it from me and what you're still hiding." Clara looked out the window, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "You feel responsible for her, don't you? For the way she's living now." "Of course I do," Malik said, his tone sharpening. "She's 85, mom scrubbing floors to survive while I'm worth billions. And you knew she was struggling. You sent her money for years. Why did you stop?" The question hung between them, heavy. Clara sighed, her shoulders sagging. "I sent what I could afford, Malik. When your father and I divorced, things were tight. By the time you started making real money with your first company, I thought it was better to let the past stay buried." "Better for who?" Malik asked, echoing the question he'd posed to Evelyn yesterday. "For you. For me, or for Evelyn, who's been working herself to death?" Clara's eyes met his glistening. "For all of us. You were building your life, your companies. I didn't want to drag you back into old wounds. And Evelyn, she made me promise not to tell you where she was. She didn't want your pity." Malik leaned back, processing her words. "She kept that promise, didn't she? Even when she could barely afford to eat, she never reached out." "She's a woman of her word," Clara said softly. "Always was." "There's something else," Malik said, watching her closely. "You said some secrets aren't yours to share." "What did you mean?" Clara hesitated, her fingers twisting the strap of her purse. "You should ask Evelyn. She knows more than I've ever said." "I'm asking you," Mom, Malik pressed. "I'm not a kid anymore. Whatever it is, I can handle it." Clara's gaze dropped to her lap. "It's not that simple, Malik. Some truths, they change things. They hurt." "Then let it hurt," he said, his voice low but unyielding. "I need to know." Clara opened her mouth and closed it, shaking her head. "I can't. Not yet. Talk to Evelyn again. Be gentle with her and with yourself. The past is painful for everyone." The car pulled up to the hotel Malik had arranged for Clara, a quiet boutique place away from his own. She touched his arm before getting out. "I'm proud of you, Malik, for wanting to help her. Just don't push too hard." Malik watched her go, frustration simmering. His mother was still protecting something or someone. But he wouldn't wait for her to come around. He had resources now, and he'd use them to uncover the truth. Back at his hotel, Malik dove into the Beacon of Care project proposal. His team had outlined a community for retired caregivers, private apartments, medical care stipends, and opportunities to share their expertise through mentorship and education programs. It was ambitious, costly $50 million to start with a $12 million annual budget. But Malik saw it as a legacy for people like Evelyn, who'd given everything to others only to be forgotten in old age. He sent feedback to his team to speed up the timeline. I want the first resident settled in 3 months. He also checked on his other plans. His legal team confirmed negotiations to buy the cafe where Evelyn worked were underway. The owner was eager to sell. The cleaning company she worked for at night was proving tougher, but Malik knew everyone had a price. By day's end, he aimed to own both businesses, ensuring better wages and benefits for their employees, especially Evelyn. But buying her workplaces was just a start. He needed a way to help her directly without offending her pride. Malik decided to see Evelyn again, this time at a park near her Brooklyn apartment. He arrived early, sitting on a bench and watching kids play on the swings. He wondered if Evelyn had ever brought her sister's children here, or later her grandniece Talia. When she appeared walking slowly with a worn shawl around her shoulders, Malik was struck by how tired she looked. The night shifts were clearly taking a toll. "I'm surprised you're still in New York," she said, settling carefully beside him. "Don't you have companies to run?" "Some things are more important," Malik replied. "Have you thought about my offer?" Evelyn sighed. "Malik, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I know what this is." "What do you think it is?" he asked. "A rich man easing his conscience by helping an old woman," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "I don't need rescuing." Malik shifted tactics. "I spoke with my mother." Evelyn's expression flickered a trace of alarm. "What did she say?" "She told me to ask you about the secrets she's kept," Malik said, watching her closely. "She said some aren't hers to share." Evelyn looked away toward the children playing. "Your mama talks too much." "Not really," Malik said. "She's good at keeping secrets, like why you really left Chicago." "That was a long time ago," Evelyn said quietly. "Not to me," Malik countered. "Not since I found you again." They sat in silence, the laughter of kids filling the space between them. Finally, Malik spoke. "You taught me something when I was young about looking at problems differently. I'm trying to do that now." Evelyn smiled slightly. "You were always good at that." "I want to help you, but not out of guilt or pity," Malik said, turning to face her. "Because you matter to me. Because you helped make me who I am." "Malik, let me finish," he interrupted. "I'm not offering a job you don't want or money you won't take. I'm asking for your help with something real." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "What kind of help, my kids?" Malik said simply. "They're growing up with wealth privilege. I worry they'll never learn the resilience, the creativity I did as a kid." "All parents worry about their children," Evelyn said. "Yes, but not all have someone like you, someone who knows how to nurture those qualities." Malik leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to be their nanny. I'm asking you to be their guide, their teacher, like you were for me." Evelyn studied him carefully. "You want me to teach your children? At my age doesn't matter. Wisdom does." He smiled. "It'd be a few hours a week at my home in Westchester. And yes, I'd pay you not as charity, but because your insight is valuable." Evelyn looked skeptical. "What would I teach them? The same things you taught me: how to think creatively, how to keep going when things get tough, how to see problems as possibilities." For the first time since they'd reunited, Malik saw a spark of interest in Evelyn's eyes. "I'd need to meet them first," she said slowly, "to see if we fit." "Absolutely," Malik said, a surge of hope rising. "And there's one more thing. I'd like to meet Talia." Evelyn's expression shifted to surprise. "My grandniece, why?" "Because she sounds like someone my company could invest in," Malik said. "You said she's brilliant with computers and math. We're always looking for talent." "She's only at community college," Evelyn said. "Some of my best engineers never finished college," Malik countered. "What matters is ability and drive. If she's got half your determination, she's already ahead." Evelyn fell silent, considering. Malik could almost see her mind weighing her pride against the opportunity for Talia. "You're a stubborn man," she said finally. I had a good teacher, he replied. A small smile tugged at her lips. I'll think about the kids, and I'll ask Talia if she wants to meet you. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no. For now, that was enough. As they sat on the bench watching the children play, Malik felt a strange calm. The path ahead wasn't clear, but it was opening. What neither realized was that this quiet park conversation was setting in motion events that would unearth the deepest secret of all. 2 days passed without word from Evelyn. Malik tried to focus on work video calls with his executive team design reviews for Horizon's latest AI project preparations for his return to Chicago, but his thoughts kept drifting to the elderly woman in Brooklyn. His mother had extended her stay in New York, citing the city's charm, but Malik suspected she wanted to be near Evelyn. Their old friendship seemed to have rekindled, though Malik noticed their conversations often hushed when he entered the room. On the third day, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Mr. Washington, this is Talia Carter. Malik sat up straighter. Talia, thanks for calling. My great-aunt says you want to meet me. The young woman said, her voice direct, with a hint of skepticism that reminded him of Evelyn. I don't get why. I hear you're into engineering, Malik said. Your aunt speaks highly of your skills. I'm always scouting talent. A pause. She's not taking your job offer, you know. The statement caught Malik off guard. She told you about that? We don't keep secrets, Talia said simply. She raised me after my grandma passed. She says it feels like charity. It's not charity, Malik said, a touch of frustration creeping in. It's respect. Mr. Washington, when you're poor, you learn to spot when rich folks feel guilty, Talia said, not accusingly, but matter-of-factly. She won't take your money no matter how you dress it up. Malik exhaled. So why'd you call? Because she collapsed at work yesterday. Malik's heart stopped. What is she okay? She's at Highland Hospital. Exhaustion, they said, and her blood pressure's too high. Talia's voice wavered slightly. She made me promise not to tell you, but I think that's foolish pride. I'm on my way, Malik said, already standing. Which room? 312. But Mr. Washington? Yes, don't tell her I called. She'd never forgive me. 20 minutes later, Malik strode through the hospital corridors, his security team causing a stir among the staff. He found room 312 and paused at the door. Evelyn looked small in the hospital bed, an IV in her arm monitors, beeping softly. Her silver hair fanned across the pillow, and her eyes were closed. For a moment, Malik was a child again, sick with fever, Evelyn by his bedside all night cooling his forehead with a damp cloth. Now their roles were reversed. He entered quietly, taking a seat beside her. Evelyn's eyes fluttered open. Malik, she blinked, confused. How'd you hospital gossip? He lied smoothly. Someone recognized you as my old nanny. Word travels fast when a billionaire's involved. Evelyn tried to sit up, wincing. You shouldn't have come. It's nothing serious. Collapsing at work is serious, Malik said. The doctor says your blood pressure's dangerously high. Doctors always say that about old folks. She waved a hand dismissively. I'll be fine with some rest. Malik leaned forward. This is why I want to help you. You're working yourself to death. I've been working since I was 12, Malik, she said. It's what I do. There's a difference between working and killing yourself. Malik countered, his voice rising. You taught me it's okay to fail. Okay to accept help when you need it. Why can't you follow your own advice? Evelyn looked stunned by his outburst. Malik softened. I'm sorry, but I can't watch you work yourself into the ground when I have the means to help. It's not that simple, she whispered. Then explain it, he said. The whole truth. Evelyn stared at the ceiling, silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. When I left Chicago, I promised myself 2 things: I'd never depend on anyone again, and I wouldn't let what happened there define my life. What happened, Evelyn? Malik asked. All of it. She met his gaze. Your stepfather Raymond was a hard man. You know that, Malik nodded. He was especially hard on me. He had set ideas about raising a son. Evelyn said, her voice growing quieter. You were different, sensitive, creative, always asking questions he couldn't answer. He didn't like that. He wanted to toughen me up, Malik said. His ways were cruel, Evelyn said, looking away. I tried to protect you when I could, to nurture the spark I saw in you. That's why he made me leave. Malik's jaw tightened. The final night he hurt me bad, didn't he? Evelyn nodded, her eyes glistening. When I threatened to report him, he said no one would believe a nanny over a prominent businessman. He was right, of course. So my mother helped you get out, Malik said. Yes. She arranged everything, the visa, a place with my sister in New York. Evelyn's voice broke. Leaving you was the hardest thing I ever did. I still dream about it, a little boy waiting for a goodbye I couldn't give. Malik reached for her hand, small and fragile in his. You did what you had to. No, she said firmly. I did what I chose to do. That's the difference. Even when everything was decided for me, I chose to survive, to work, to build a life here. Malik's eyes widened as understanding dawned. That's why you won't take my help. It feels like losing that choice. Yes, she said, squeezing his hand. My life hasn't been easy, but it's been mine. Every struggle, every decision, every triumph, mine. They sat in silence, the monitor's steady beeps the only sound. Malik spoke carefully. You taught me a principle I use in my companies, solving problems so everyone benefits. What if I found a way to help you that also helps me? A true exchange, not charity. Evelyn looked intrigued despite herself. What do you have in mind? Let me think on it, Malik said. But first you need to get better. Will you let me cover your medical bills? Call it an advance on future consulting work. Evelyn hesitated, then gave a small nod. An advance only. I'll earn every cent. I wouldn't expect less, Malik said, a smile breaking through. As he left the hospital, his mind raced with ideas. Helping Evelyn wasn't just about money or comfort. It was about honoring her dignity, her choices. And for the first time, he saw she still had lessons to teach him about pride, independence, and what it means to own your life. By the time Evelyn was discharged 3 days later, Malik had a new strategy. His mother's words echoed, ask for her help with something real. Not a fabricated consulting job, not charity disguised as work. Something genuine that let Evelyn give as much as she received. He arranged to pick her up from the hospital himself. When he arrived at her room, Evelyn was dressed, her few belongings in a plastic bag. Doctor says you need 2 weeks rest, Malik said, helping her to his car. No work. Evelyn frowned. I can't afford 2 weeks off. It's handled, Malik said. Seeing her expression darken, he added, remember our deal, medical costs as an advance. This counts. It's not medical, she protested. Doctor's orders are medical, Malik said firmly, and I've spoken to your managers. Both are very understanding. Of course, Malik's lawyers were finalizing deals to buy their businesses, though Evelyn didn't need to know that yet. Instead of driving to her Brooklyn apartment, Malik directed the driver to a different address, a modest but comfortable guest house in Westchester. Where are we going? Evelyn asked, noticing they weren't heading to Brooklyn. My place, Malik said, or rather my guest house. Just until you're stronger. Evelyn started to object, but Malik cut in. Please, Miss Evelyn, I'm worried about you being alone right now. Consider it a favor to me. She studied him, then sighed. A few days, then I go back to my place. The guest house was simple but welcoming, a living room with large windows overlooking a garden, a bedroom with a comfortable bed, a stocked kitchen. Everything was single-level, designed with an elderly woman's needs in mind. No stairs grab bars in the bathroom cabinets within easy reach. This is too much, Evelyn said, looking around. It's been empty for months, Malik lied. His staff had prepared it specifically for her, per his instructions. I want to show you something. He led her to the window. Across the garden in the main house, his children were playing. My kids are here this week. They don't usually stay here, but they're visiting. Evelyn watched them with interest. They look lively. That's one word for it, Malik said with a wry smile. Their nanny quit last month, said they were too much to handle. Not entirely true, the nanny had relocated, but it served his purpose. Children are never too much, Evelyn said, a hint of her old firmness returning. Just misunderstood sometimes. That's what I thought you'd say, Malik said, turning to her. I've been thinking about our hospital talk about helping each other. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Go on. I wasn't fully honest before Malik admitted, running a hand over his head, a nervous habit from childhood that Evelyn recognized. I said I worry about my kids growing up privileged, that's true. But there's more. He paused, his voice raw with honesty. The truth is, I don't always know how to connect with them. I'm not great with the emotional stuff. Evelyn's expression softened. She heard the sincerity in his words. My work keeps me busy, he continued. Too busy. They have everything they need, money, toys, schools, but not enough of what matters. Time, Evelyn said quietly. Children need time. Yes, Malik said, meeting her eyes. And someone who listens like you did for me. Understanding dawned on Evelyn's face. You want me to spend time with your children? I want you to help me be a better father, Malik said earnestly. Show me what I'm missing, what they need. For the first time since they'd reconnected, Evelyn's face opened fully, the weariness and pride giving way to warmth. That's something I can do, she said softly. Just a few hours a week, Malik added, when you're stronger. You'd be doing me a real service, Miss Evelyn. And yes, I'd pay you not as charity, but because your guidance is worth it. Evelyn walked to the window, watching the children. What are their names? Jaden and Jordan are the twins, 16. Miles, Kai, and Zoe are younger. And there's Zion, he's a toddler. Malik joined her. They're good kids, but they live in a bubble of wealth. I want them to learn what you taught me. Resourcefulness, empathy, seeing challenges as opportunities. Children learn by watching, Evelyn said. Show them those qualities yourself and they'll follow. That's the kind of insight I need, Malik said eagerly. Will you help us? Not as an employee, but as a teacher, a mentor to them and to me. Evelyn considered for a long moment. I'll meet them first, she said finally, to see if we understand each other. Of course, Malik said, barely containing his excitement. When you're feeling better. Tomorrow, Evelyn decided. Children shouldn't wait. The next day, Malik brought his younger children to the guest house for lunch. He'd briefed them, explaining Evelyn was a special friend who'd known him as a boy. The meeting started awkwardly. The kids were shy, Evelyn formal, but then Zion spilled his juice, and Evelyn handled it with gentle efficiency. No scolding, just quick cleanup, and a joke about gravity experiments that broke the tension. By the end of the meal, Kai was showing her his coding project, and Zoe asked if she knew any good stories. Only about 100, Evelyn replied with a smile that shed years from her face. Later, when the kids returned to the main house, Evelyn turned to Malik. They're wonderful, Malik, but I see what you mean. They're searching for something. Connection, Malik said. The thing I'm not always good at giving. We'll work on that, Evelyn said, and Malik felt a surge of hope at the Malawi. Over the next week, a routine emerged. 3 afternoons a week, Evelyn spent time with the children, reading stories, helping with homework, teaching them simple recipes from her childhood. Malik joined when he could, watching her approach patient yet firm, encouraging curiosity, while setting clear boundaries, always listening to what the kids said beneath their words. The children thrived under her care. Even the teens, initially skeptical of Dad's old nanny, began dropping by for her advice. What started as a plan to help Evelyn was becoming something more, a healing process for Malik's family and for him. But in quiet moments, he caught a look in Evelyn's eyes or his mother's, hinting at a truth still unspoken. As he worked behind the scenes to build the beacon of care community, Malik knew the biggest secret was yet to come. Malik Washington sat in his Westchester home office, the glow of his laptop casting shadows across his face. The past week had been a whirlwind. Evelyn Carter, his childhood nanny, had settled into the guest house and begun spending time with his children, guiding them with the same wisdom that shaped him decades ago in Chicago. Her presence was transforming his family, but Malik sensed she and his mother, Clara, were still guarding a secret. Today, on Evelyn's 86th birthday, he planned to unveil the Beacon of Care community, a project inspired by her life of sacrifice. He hoped it would convince her to accept a role that honored her, but he also intended to press for the truth about her sudden departure from his childhood. His phone pinged with an update from his legal team: cafe acquisition complete. Cleaning company deal closes tomorrow. Employee wages, increased benefits implemented. Malik had bought both businesses where Evelyn worked, ensuring better conditions for all, especially her. But he kept this from Evelyn. She'd see it as charity, not strategy. His chief of staff sent the latest Beacon of Care proposal: construction on track for first residence in 3 months. Budget at $53 million, with $12 million annual operations. Malik skimmed the plan's: private apartments, medical clinics, gardens, and mentorship programs for retired caregivers. It was a vision of dignity, but would Evelyn embrace it? Malik closed his laptop and glanced out the window. His children were in the guest house decorating for Evelyn's birthday with Clara's help. Their excitement warmed him, but the weight of unanswered questions lingered. Why had Clara sent Evelyn money for years then stopped? Why did Evelyn leave Chicago so abruptly? And what was the secret his mother said wasn't hers to share? Malik's investigator had uncovered Raymond Harris's threat to Evelyn, his mother's role in her escape, and the strange pattern of Evelyn's short-lived nanny jobs afterward. But there was more. Malik could feel it. He stood smoothing his jacket. Today he'd show Evelyn the beacon of care community, hoping it would open her heart to his help and to the truth. The morning began with a surprise breakfast at the guest house. Malik's children had transformed the small space with paper flowers and hand-drawn cards. Even the twins, Jaden and Jordan, usually too cool for such things, had pitched in, with Jaden baking a lopsided cake under the housekeeper's watch. 86 years young, Zoe announced as they carried in the cake candles blazing. Evelyn's eyes shimmered with emotion as the kids sang first in English, then in Spanish, a song they'd practiced with Clara. "Blow out the candles," Miss Evelyn Zion urged, bouncing in his seat. "Make a wish," Kai added. Evelyn took a deep breath, extinguishing the flames in one go. The children cheered. "What did you wish for?" Miles asked. "If she tells it won't come true," Jordan reminded him. Evelyn smiled. "Some wishes are meant to be shared. I wished for all of you to grow with kind hearts and brave minds." "That's not a real wish," Zoe protested. "It's gotta be for you." "When you're my age," Evelyn said gently, "the best wishes are for others." Malik watched from the doorway, moved by the scene. In just weeks, Evelyn had become vital to his children's lives and his own. Today, he'd show her how much her influence mattered. After breakfast, he approached her with a small silver-wrapped box. "Happy birthday," he said, handing it to her. She opened it carefully, preserving the paper with a frugality born of hardship. Inside was a vintage silver locket on a delicate chain. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Open it," Malik encouraged. Inside was a tiny photo of a young Malik, maybe 6, grinning with a gap-toothed smile. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. "I had this picture," she said, voice trembling. "In Chicago in my Bible. My mother found it in your room after you left," Malik explained. "She kept it all these years." Evelyn touched the photo gently, then closed the locket. "Thank you, Malik. I'll treasure this." "There's more," he said. "I'd like to take you somewhere special today." Her eyebrows rose. "We're a surprise," he said, smiling. "A short drive." An hour later, they were in Malik's car, Evelyn in the front, Malik driving Clara in the back. He'd insisted on driving himself without his security team for privacy. "You sure this is a good idea?" Evelyn asked as they merged onto the highway. "Billionaires don't usually play chauffeur." "Today's special," Malik replied. "And where we're going, I want it to be just us." Clara caught his eye in the rearview mirror, her expression questioning. She knew nothing of the Beacon of Care project. He'd kept it secret from both women. They drove 30 minutes, leaving Westchester behind for a quieter area near Yonkers. Malik turned onto a tree-lined drive, winding through what was once a corporate campus. "What is this place?" Clara asked. "You'll see," Malik said, excitement creeping into his voice. As they rounded a curve, a large sign came into view. "Beacon of Care Community," with smaller text beneath, "Where wisdom finds a home." Evelyn leaned forward. "Beacon of Care." Malik parked before a renovated main building, its fresh paint and large windows flanked by gardens. A small group in business attire waited near the entrance. "Malik, what is this?" Evelyn asked again as he helped her from the car. "Something I've been working on," he said. "Something you inspired." His chief of staff stepped forward. "Ms. Carter, welcome to Beacon of Care Community. We're honored to have you here for our opening day." Evelyn looked bewildered as they were led inside. The interior was bright and open, comfortable furniture art on the walls, windows overlooking courtyards. "This was going to be a New Horizon research facility," Malik explained as they walked. "But I found a better purpose." They entered a community room where a model of the campus stood on a table. Malik guided Evelyn to it. Beacon of Care is a living and learning community for retired caregivers, nannies, housekeepers, home health aides. People who've spent their lives caring for others, often at their own expense. Evelyn stared at the model, then at Malik. "You built this for people like me?" He nodded. People who deserve security and dignity in their later years, but who also have wisdom to share. His chief of staff continued, residents get private apartments, full medical care, and a stipend. In return, they contribute to educational programs, sharing knowledge with young parents, childcare workers, and families. They toured a model apartment, a one-bedroom unit with a small kitchen, accessible bathroom, and sunny living room designed for older residents. We have 50 units ready today, the facility director said. Another 50 in 3 months. Residents have access to gardens, a library, teaching kitchens, classrooms. Evelyn remained quiet, her expression unreadable. Malik couldn't tell if she was impressed, overwhelmed, or offended. The tour ended in a courtyard garden, stone paths winding through raised planting beds of vegetables and flowers. Benches sat in shady spots, a fountain bubbling in the center. This is the heart garden, Malik said. Each resident can have a planting bed. I know you love gardening. Evelyn walked the paths, touching leaves and petals. Finally, she turned to him. This is why you've been so busy these weeks. He nodded. What do you think? It's beautiful, she admitted. But Malik, this must have cost millions. 53 to be exact, he said, with a $12 million annual budget. But it's worth every cent. Clara, silent until now, spoke. And you want Evelyn to live here. Not just live, Malik corrected. I want her to be the founding director, to shape what this place becomes. Evelyn's eyes widened. Director, me. I've never run anything like this. You have the most important experience, Malik said. You understand caregiving better than anyone. The administrative stuff, we have staff for that. We need your heart, your wisdom. Evelyn sat on a bench looking every bit her 86 years. Malik sat beside her, concerned. It's too much, she said quietly. Too generous. It's not just for you, Malik said. It's for everyone like you. And it's not charity, it's recognizing value. These residents won't be recipients. They'll be teachers, mentors. Their knowledge matters. Evelyn looked around the garden then at Malik's hopeful face. Her expression was complex, moved, but troubled. I need time to think, she said finally. Of course, Malik assured her. Take all the time you need. As they prepared to leave, Malik noticed Clara pull Evelyn aside. They spoke in whispers, heads close. Clara nodding at Evelyn's words before squeezing her hand. On the drive back, Evelyn was pensive, gazing out at the passing landscape. Malik wondered if he'd pushed too far, if his grand gesture had overwhelmed rather than honored her. When they reached Westchester, Evelyn turned to him. Can we talk privately? There's something I need to tell you. Malik glanced at Clara in the rearview mirror. She nodded slowly. It's time, Malik, she said softly. There's something we've kept from you too long. In Malik's study, the three sat, Malik behind his desk, Evelyn and Clara in chairs facing him. The birthday celebration and beacon of care tour had faded, replaced by a heavy silence. Malik looked between the women, noting their tense postures. What's this about? He asked. Clara glanced at Evelyn, who nodded slightly. You should tell him, Evelyn said, taking a deep breath. Clara began, her voice unsteady. When you were a child, Malik, your stepfather, Raymond, and I had troubles in our marriage. You know this? Of course, Malik said. You divorced when I was 8. Yes, but the problems started earlier, Clara said, looking at her hands. Raymond wasn't always kind to me, or to you kids. Malik's jaw tightened. This wasn't new, though Clara rarely spoke of it directly. I remember. During the worst times, Evelyn was often your only stability, Clara continued. When I was working, or when Raymond and I were fighting, she gave you the love and security you needed. I know, Malik said, glancing at Evelyn warmly. That's why finding her again means so much. Clara's voice grew strained. What you don't know is why I hired Evelyn in the first place. It wasn't just for childcare. Malik frowned, confused. What other reason was there? Clara and Evelyn exchanged a look. Evelyn reached into her purse, pulling out a yellowed, worn envelope. She handed it to Malik. Before you open this, know that everything I told you about caring for you was true. Every moment, every lesson, every bedtime story, all real. My love for you was always genuine. Puzzled, Malik turned the envelope over. It was addressed to Ms. Evelyn Carter in Clara's handwriting, postmarked Chicago 1979, the year Evelyn joined their household. He looked at them questioningly. Read it, Clara urged softly. Malik carefully extracted the fragile letter and unfolded it. February 12th, 1979. Dear Ms. Carter, I write to you on the highest recommendation of my cousin in Atlanta, who speaks warmly of your care for her children. My situation is delicate. I have 3 young children, my eldest Malik being particularly special, bright, but struggling in his current environment. His stepfather does not understand him and is often harsh. I seek more than a nanny. I need someone to provide stability and nurturing when I cannot, someone who will protect Malik's unique spirit from those who might break it, including, I regret to say, his stepfather. There is something else you should know, something I have not told my children. Before I married Raymond Harris, I was briefly married to another man. That marriage ended, but it gave me my firstborn Malik. Raymond has legally adopted him, but he has never fully accepted Malik as his own. I fear this is the root of their difficulties. Malik does not know this truth, and I ask you to keep this confidence, as it would only hurt him at his young age. I offer you a position in our Chicago household with generous pay and comfortable quarters. More importantly, I offer you the chance to protect a remarkable child in a difficult time. Please consider my offer. My son needs someone like you. With hope, Clara Washington Malik read the letter twice, his hands trembling. He looked up, eyes moving between Clara and Evelyn. Raymond isn't my real father. Clara shook her head. No, Malik. I was married briefly before him to a man named James Turner. The marriage didn't last, but I was pregnant with you when it ended. Why didn't you tell me? Malik's voice was calm, but a storm brewed beneath. At first you were too young, Clara said. Then after Raymond adopted you, it seemed complicated to explain. By the time you were old enough, Raymond had been your father for so long. She trailed off. I made a mistake keeping it from you. I see that now. Malik turned to Evelyn. You knew from the start, she nodded. Your mother trusted me with this. She wanted you to have someone who understood your full situation, even if you didn't. That's why you were so protective, Malik said, pieces clicking into place. Why you stood up to Raymond even when it cost you everything. He was hardest on you because deep down he never saw you as his, Evelyn said. I couldn't stand by and watch him try to crush your spirit. When you left, I was heartbroken, Clara added. You were the only one besides me who knew the truth, who understood what Malik was going through. That's why I helped you get to America, why I sent money as long as I could. You sacrificed everything to protect him. Malik stood walking to the window, his back to them. All his life he'd defined himself partly against Raymond, a man whose approval he both craved and rejected. Now he learned Raymond wasn't his biological father. This explains a lot, he said finally. Why I felt different. Why he treated me differently from my siblings. You were different, Evelyn said gently. Not because of who your father was, but because of who you were, a child with an extraordinary mind and a sensitive heart. Malik turned back. Who was James Turner? What do you know about him? Clara sighed. He was brilliant, creative, a scientist with big dreams. In those ways, you're very much his son. Is he alive? Malik asked. No, darling, Clara said. He passed years ago before you started school. Malik absorbed this, his face unreadable. Then he looked at Evelyn. When I found you again, why didn't you tell me it wasn't my truth to share? She said simply. I promised your mother all those years ago. But today, after seeing Beacon of Care, Clara interjected, glancing at Evelyn, we decided it was time you knew everything. There's one more thing, Clara said, her voice small. Something I'm not proud of. Malik waited silent. When I couldn't afford to help Evelyn anymore, around the time you started your first company, I asked her not to contact you, Clara admitted. I was afraid the truth would come out if you reconnected. I was protecting a secret that shouldn't have been kept. Malik's jaw tightened. So even when she was struggling, working multiple jobs in her 70s, 80s, she stayed away because of a promise to you. Yes, Clara said, tears welling. She's a woman of her word. Malik returned to his desk, picking up the letter, his fingers tracing the faded ink. His identity, his drive, his rebellion against Raymond, it all stemmed from a lie he'd lived unknowingly. I understand if you're angry, Clara said. You have every right. Malik was quiet then. Surprisingly, he smiled faintly. It's a relief in a way. I always wondered why I was so different from him. Now I know. He turned to Evelyn. You were more apparent to me than Raymond ever was. You saw me when he couldn't or wouldn't. I always believed in you, Evelyn said softly. From the first day. Malik opened a desk drawer, pulling out a file. There's something I haven't told you both either, he said. He slid a newspaper clipping across to Evelyn, a newsletter from his educational foundation 3 years old, listing donors to a scholarship fund. Near the bottom, Evelyn Carter, $200. You donated to my foundation, Malik said. When the article mentioned I was a major backer, you gave $200, money you probably didn't have. Evelyn looked embarrassed. It wasn't much. It was everything, Malik corrected. Proportionally, it's maybe the biggest donation I've ever gotten. I saw your name in the paper, Evelyn explained. The foundation was helping kids who couldn't afford school. It felt like something you'd care about. You supported my work even when you had nothing, Malik said, his voice thick. Even when you thought we'd never meet again. I was proud of you, she said simply. I wanted to be part of what you were building, even in a small way. Malik looked at the two women who'd shaped him, Clara, who made hard choices to protect him, and Evelyn, who sacrificed her security to defend him. Both had kept secrets, but both acted from love. I think I understand now, he said quietly. Why Beacon of Care matters so much to me. It's not just about helping people like you, Evelyn. It's about recognizing the love you gave me, the kind that can't be measured. He stood, decision made. I still want you to be part of the project in whatever way feels right. Not out of obligation, but because your wisdom is what it needs. Evelyn smiled, tears in her eyes. I'd be honored, Malik. Truly. As they sat together, the weight of decades of secrets lifted. There was more to discuss, more to process, but the truth was finally spoken. What none of them knew was that Evelyn held one final secret, the most profound of all, waiting for the right moment to share. Malik's children burst back into the guest house that evening, faces flushed from playing in the garden. Miss Evelyn, Mr. Garcia says his tomatoes are the best, Kai announced. Then we'll have to taste them and see. Evelyn replied, her voice lighter than Malik had heard in weeks. As the kids chattered, Malik's phone buzzed with a call from his investigator. Mr. Washington, I found something else about Ms. Carter. It's, unusual. Should I send it now? Malik stepped outside, his pulse quickening. What is it? A collection of documents she kept mentioned by a former neighbor in Brooklyn. Drawings, notes, clippings, all about you from when you were a child. The neighbor said Ms. Carter treated them like treasures, even when she had to sell other possessions. Malik's breath caught. Send everything you have. As he hung up, Evelyn appeared at the door, her shawl around her shoulders. Everything all right, Malik? He nodded, but his mind was racing. What had Evelyn kept all these years and why? As her birthday drew to a close, Malik felt the past wasn't done with them yet. The Beacon of Care community was just the beginning. Evelyn's true gift to him, and his to her, was still unfolding. Malik Washington stood in the courtyard of the Beacon of Care community, the Yonkers sun casting golden rays across the Heart Garden. It was the 1-year anniversary of the community's opening, and the air buzzed with celebration. Residents, former nannies, housekeepers, and caregivers like Evelyn Carter mingled with staff, families, and local dignitaries. Children ran through the paths, their laughter echoing off stone benches and blooming flower beds. At the center of it all was Evelyn, now 87, her silver hair catching the light as she greeted guests with a quiet dignity that commanded respect. As the founding director, she transformed the community into a thriving haven, a testament to the value of those who'd spent their lives caring for others. Malik's children were here too, insisting on attending. Even the twins, Jaden and Jordan, had grown fond of the residents, volunteering to help with the day's events. Malik watched Zoe hand out programs, while Kai showed off a coding project to an elderly resident who'd once taught math. His heart swelled. The Beacon of Care wasn't just a project, it was a legacy born from Evelyn's influence on his life. Yet even amidst the joy, a question lingered. His investigators' call last night, hinting at a collection of documents Evelyn had kept, suggested one final secret. Today, Malik hoped to uncover it. The past year had been transformative. Evelyn's revelation on her 86th birthday that Raymond Harris wasn't his biological father, but James Turner was, had reshaped Malik's understanding of himself. Learning Clara and Evelyn had hidden this to protect him was painful, but it also freed him. His drive, his defiance of convention, his dreams of changing the world. They weren't born in opposition to Raymond, but inherited from a father he'd never known. Evelyn's role in his life grew clearer too. She'd been more than a nanny. She'd been a guardian nurturing his spirit when others sought to break it. Malik's phone buzzed with a text from his chief of staff, beacon of care model approved for replication in California, Texas, and Georgia. International inquiries from UK and Canada. The project had exceeded expectations, becoming a blueprint for valuing caregivers globally. Malik smiled, but his focus was on Evelyn, now speaking to a group of residents near the fountain. Her health had improved dramatically. Rest, good food, and regular medical care from living in the community had worked wonders. More than that, her role here gave her purpose a spark that outshone her years. As the official ceremony began, Malik took the stage for a brief speech. "A year ago, we opened this community to honor those who've given their lives to care for others," he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "But it started with one woman, Evelyn Carter, who taught me that the greatest gift is believing in someone's potential. This is her legacy as much as mine." The crowd applauded, and Evelyn ducked her head, embarrassed but pleased. After the ribbon cutting for the new medical center, Malik found her in her apartment for a quieter gathering. Clara was there along with Talia Carter, Evelyn's grandniece home from her freshman year at MIT. Talia, whose scholarship and SpaceX internship Malik had quietly arranged, was buzzing with stories about her robotics project. "She's brilliant," Evelyn said proudly, patting Talia's hand. "Like her mama, like her great-aunt," Malik corrected, smiling. As the afternoon wore on, the younger children grew restless. "Why don't you explore the garden?" Evelyn suggested. "Just mind Mr. Lopez's tomato plants. He's particular about them." After they left with Talia, Evelyn turned to Malik, her expression shifting to something more serious. "There's something I've been meaning to show you," she said. "I've waited for the right moment." She walked to her bedroom and returned with a small wooden box, its surface worn smooth from years of handling. Placing it on the coffee table, she looked at Malik. "What's this?" he asked, a mix of curiosity and apprehension rising. "Something I've kept for 40 years, Evelyn replied. "Through every move, every hardship. Even when I sold my wedding ring to pay rent, I never considered parting with this." She opened the box carefully. Inside were papers and small objects neatly arranged. Evelyn lifted a bundle of yellowed pages, tied with a faded ribbon, and handed them to Malik. "Do you recognize these?" He unfolded the first page and froze. It was a childish drawing of a robot labeled in his 6-year-old scrawl, "Malik's Future Bot." He flipped through more sketches of flying cars, crude circuit diagrams, lists of inventions, even early computer code penciled on lined paper. "You saved these," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Every drawing, every idea you shared with me," Evelyn said softly. "When I left Chicago, these were the only personal things I took besides my clothes and Bible." Malik looked up, eyes glistening. "You kept them all these years?" "Of course," she said, as if it were obvious. "I knew they'd be important someday." "Just like I knew you'd be important," How Malik asked, his voice cracking. "How could you know?" Evelyn glanced at Clara, who nodded encouragingly. "There's something I never told you," Evelyn said, her voice softening. "About the night before I left Chicago." Malik leaned forward, sensing this was the final piece of the puzzle. "What happened?" "Your mother came to my room late," Evelyn said. "She was afraid of what Raymond might do, afraid for your future without me there to shield you from his harshness. She asked me to make a promise." "What promise?" Malik asked. "She asked me to always look out for the special light in you, even from afar," Evelyn said, "to keep faith in your potential when others might try to dim it." Malik turned to Clara. "Is this true?" Clara nodded, tears in her eyes. "I was desperate, Malik. I knew you'd be lost without Evelyn, but I couldn't stop her leaving. It was an impossible ask to guard a child from thousands of miles away, but I asked anyway. And I promised," Evelyn continued. "I kept that promise. I followed your progress through every newspaper I could find. I saved every mention of your name, every photo." She reached into the box, pulling out a stack of carefully preserved clippings, articles about his first company, Horizon Innovations, his AI breakthroughs, his clean energy ventures. Each traced his rise. "When I couldn't afford papers, I'd go to the library," Evelyn said, a smile touching her lips. "The librarians thought I was odd, this old woman asking for articles about Malik Washington. I told them you were my son. It was easier than explaining. Malik stared at the clippings, stunned by her dedication. You watched over me all this time from a distance. Yes, Evelyn said. I couldn't be there, but I carried you in my heart. Every success you had felt like a victory for us both. That's why you donated to my foundation, Malik realized, recalling the $200 she'd given 3 years ago, a fortune for her then. It wasn't just about the students. It was my way of staying part of your life, Evelyn admitted. Silly maybe, but it mattered to me. Clara wiped her eyes. I never imagined she'd take my desperate request so literally, so faithfully. When you told me you found her in that cafe, I couldn't believe it. Malik carefully gathered the drawings and clippings, placing them back in the box. He took Evelyn's hands, her weathered fingers small in his. I thought the gift in this story was what I could give you: security recognition, a legacy, he said. But I was wrong. Evelyn raised an eyebrow, curious. The true gift was what you gave me, Malik said, his voice thick. Unwavering faith when I needed it most, even when I didn't know you were there. You kept believing in that little boy who drew robots, who dreamed of changing the world. Evelyn's eyes softened. I always saw it in you, Malik. That light, it was there from the start. Malik looked around her apartment, a cozy space within the community he'd built. At 87, Evelyn had found the security and purpose she deserved. And he, at the peak of his success, had reconnected with the woman who'd nurtured his earliest dreams. Through her, he'd learned not just his true origins, but the power of quiet, persistent faith, the kind that follows a child's potential across decades and continents, never doubting that robot sketches would become reality. AI Clean Energy, my companies, Malik said softly. I'm still just building the things I drew in your kitchen all those years ago. I know, Evelyn said, smiling. That's why I saved them, to remind you where it started. As his children burst back into the apartment, faces flushed from garden adventures, Malik realized the true miracle wasn't what he'd done for Evelyn. It was what she'd done for him all along. Her faith had been the spark that lit his path from a Chicago boy with big dreams to a man changing the world. The celebration continued into the evening, with residents sharing stories around tables laden with food. Evelyn moved among them, her presence a quiet anchor. Malik watched her, marveling at her resilience. She'd turned the beacon of care into more than a community, it was a movement. Residents taught cooking classes, mentored young parents, even consulted with tech firms on products for seniors. Evelyn herself led workshops on nurturing creativity in children, drawing from decades of experience. Her influence rippled outward, just as it had in Malik's life. Talia pulled Malik aside, her MIT hoodie, a stark contrast to the Brooklyn girl he'd first spoken to. I know you're behind my scholarship, she said, her tone direct but warm. And the internship. Thank you. You earned it, Malik said. Your aunt told me enough about you to know you've got what it takes. She's proud, you know, Talia said, glancing at Evelyn. But she'll never say it outright. Malik chuckled. I'm counting on the proud part outweighing the stubborn. Talia grinned. She's calling me her daughter now, not just grandniece. Guess I'm stuck with her. You're lucky, Malik said, meaning it. As night fell, Malik found Evelyn in the Heart Garden, sitting on a bench under a string of lights. Clara joined them, her face softer than Malik had seen in years. Evelyn was telling me about a lullaby she taught Zion. Clara said, settling beside her. The same one she sang to you in Chicago. I remember, Malik said. Something about angels watching over kids. Angel de la Guarda, Evelyn said, nodding. At heaven's door. You had nightmares as a boy. I'd sing it to calm you. Sing it now, Clara urged, a playful glint in her eye. Evelyn's voice, thin but sweet, rose in the evening air, the Spanish lullaby weaving a spell of comfort. Malik closed his eyes, transported to his childhood bedroom, Evelyn's presence, a shield against the dark. The lyrics spoke of guardian angels protecting sleeping children, and they soothed him now as they had then. When she finished, Malik opened his eyes, finding both women watching him. That song got me through some scary nights, he said. You did. You were a brave boy, Evelyn said. You just needed reminding sometimes. Malik looked at the garden, its beds thriving under the residents' care. This place, it's like that lullaby. A reminder that people like you, who've given so much, deserve to be cared for too. Evelyn's smile was radiant. You've given me more than I ever dreamed, Malik. A home, a purpose. But don't forget, you're part of this too. Those drawings in that box, they're here now in the world you've built. Clara reached for Evelyn's hand, then Malik's. I made mistakes, she said, her voice thick. Keeping secrets, letting you think Raymond was your father. But seeing you two together building this, it makes it right. Malik squeezed their hands. We're here now. That's what matters. As the stars emerged above, Malik felt a peace he hadn't known before. The beacon of care community was thriving. Evelyn was thriving, and his family was whole in a way it hadn't been since Chicago. The secrets about his father, Evelyn's departure, her quiet guardianship had been painful but necessary. They led him here to a place where love and faith could grow. A year ago, Malik had set out to save Evelyn to repay a debt he felt he owed. But in the end, she'd saved him again. Her box of drawings, her clippings, her unwavering belief had reminded him who he was. Not just a billionaire CEO, but a boy with a spark, nurtured by a woman who saw his light when the world was dark. The beacon of care was their shared dream, a place where wisdom found a home, and where a little boy's robot sketches became a legacy for generations. As the celebration wound down, Malik walked Evelyn back to her apartment. You've changed my life, Miss Evelyn, he said, pausing at her door. Again. And you've changed mine, she replied, her eyes bright. We're even now, Malik, he laughed, shaking his head. Not even close. As he rejoined his children, their voices carrying through the garden, Malik knew the story wasn't over. The beacon of care would grow, Evelyn's lessons would endure, and the bond they'd rebuilt would carry them forward. The true gift wasn't the community he'd built, it was the faith Evelyn had kept alive, a light that guided him home.